Today we're going to go do function operations. There's a lot of operation, but first of all, let's start with function notation. Again, this is algebra 1 stuff and algebra 2, so a lot of times. So some of those things you already know, but I'm going to go through even more extensive, go to inverse combined with the composite functions. And so we're going to go to that. Start with why do we have function notation? What is function notation? So what is function notation? Do you guys know what function notation is? F of x equal, thank you. So it's f of x. So f of x is equal to, let's say it's 2x minus 1, something like this. It's just saying y is equal to something, but why is this notation better than y? So suppose y equal to versus y equal to 2x minus 1. So why is this notation better than this notation? Yes?
Because you can plug in any value of x that way.
Okay, so you can notate, you can actually give notation says, okay, I want to find out what happened when x is equal to 1 and what is my y value. But here I have to say if x is equal to 1, what is y? Right? That's too much work. And here I could have said, well, if x is equal to 1, what is y value? So the way I notify this, I will say, hey, f of 1 is equal to 2x minus 1. So that means everywhere I have x, I'm going to plug in 1. So that's equal to 2 minus 1, that's equal to 1. So that's, to tell you that I can plug in 1 into the functions and I can get a value. So if I say f of 1 is a y value. 1 is the x value. Okay, so that's the just easy way to talk about things. Now sometimes this thing can be in terms of table or in terms of graph. Okay, in table or graph. We're going to talk about what happened if it's in table, what did you do with? If it's in graph, what would you do with? Okay, so what do I mean by table? So sometimes I could have this. I can say x and f of x, right? And if I say 2, 6, 7, 8, and 8, 10, like this. I can say, well, what is f of 7? Oh, that just means when x equal to 7, what is my y value? But the y is known as f of x. Okay, so a lot of people say, well, what is y? Well, y is the f of x. Okay, so then f of 7 is equal to 8. So that's in terms of tables. I can give you in terms of table. I can also give you in graphs. I can say, okay, so that's another way to know that something is f of x. It looks like absolute value functions. So I have this. I can say, well, okay, what is f of -2? What is f of -2? Arani? Oh, you know you're taking the test. Fabian, what will be f of -2 here?
F of -2 would be 4.
Okay, Krishna?
Are you asking like is that the y-intercept?
Yeah, so no. F of x. So this is the f of x graph. What is the f of -2? Bryce? It's going to be 2. Because that means when x equal to -2, what is my y value? So that's equal to 2.
That's absolutely.
Yeah, that's absolute value graph. So we can say this one's the f of x, right? So we're going to connect to the table. We're going to connect it to graph. We're going to connect to the functions. And you have to recognize all 3 and to connect to each other. So I think that in algebra 1 we do that, but we don't really emphasize on all three combinations. Bryce, can you put your computer away? For those people who have computer, can you put your computer away? Okay, so those are the things that we can ask. Okay, so we can ask you, says, okay, what is f of 8? Well, f of 8, that means when x equal to 8, what is my y value? That's 10. I could ask you, it says f of 0, well, f of 0, what's my y value? My y value is 0, and that's it. So those are what are useful for function notations. Now, how many different type of operations for function notation? There are a few different kinds, so we're going to talk about all those. But right now, it's just the basics. This is algebra 1 that we should have covered, which is a lot of you guys didn't have this knowledge before. So now, is there anything that here is misunderstanding? No? Okay. So let's talk about how many different kind of operations. There are operations, for example, there are operation addition, we have operation of subtractions. So also, we're going to talk about what's the second benefit of function notations. So here, we're going to go to function notation. We're going to say, okay, well, if I have y equal to 2x minus 1, then that's bad because that's not able to tell me which function. What if I have a second y? I just say if I have y is equal to, that's 3 over 2x plus 2. And you say, well, when x is equal to 2, what is y value? Now, what's the question that you're going to ask me? If I say, if x is equal to 2, what is y value? You're going to tell me what? What?
5.
What'd you say?
5.
Well,
5 and 3.
so here's a question you should ask me, says, which function I'm talking about? Okay, which function? When x is equal to 2, what are you talking about? This function or this function? So that's another way why this function is not good to describe y equal to something. It's probably better to say, well, f of x is equal to 2x minus 1, and what is g of x? So we told you this is g. This is second y that we're talking about. So instead we can say, probably in here we can say some y1 and y2. We can say if x is equal to 1, what happen with the y value, but y1 or y2. But I don't like that because that's not a good notation. So I can say that's a g of x equal to 3 over 2x plus 2. So now that's a better way to describe something now. So now we got f of x and g of x. Okay, we got this. So how many different operations? Okay, there's a sum, which is well, I can say it's f plus g of x. This is a sum of two functions. Well, it pretty much just means f of x plus g of x. But you have to recognize this notation is exactly the same as this notations. And this is, you guys gonna see, like, this is very intuitive. Yes, it is. I'm not gonna lie, they should have learned this in algebra 1. But a lot of you guys don't have that knowledge, so I'd rather go over it. And what is f minus g? Well, that just
F of x
minus g of x, right? And what is f dot g? Now this one is gonna cause confusion. So this is a dot. Is what? Multiplication. Thank you. So it'll be f of x dot g of x. Well, that's times, right? So that's gonna be f over g of x. That's equal to what? Now there's a slight issue here. You have to know something after this. There's something here that you have to worry about. What is it? G what?
Needs to be different than 0.
G is what?
Different than 0.
Different than 0, so you're gonna say g of x
No,
cannot equal to 0. Because the bottom cannot equal to 0 because otherwise function does not exist. Okay? Now this is just full normal function. What people are gonna make mistake is on this one, they forgot to distribute the negative sign. So I'll says, make sure you distribute negative signs. Negative signs. And this one, they forgot to mention the g of x cannot equal to 0. And this one, they don't know if that's times or off. And we're gonna talk about that. So can you figure out what are those 4 different things for those 2 functions? And that should be easy, but we're gonna go to composite. So we're gonna go to composite function in a second. So this is our easy stuff, and this is very intuitive. So it's not, like if you get it, understand. Just bear with me for a second. Then we go into the harder stuff. For example, we're gonna have f inverse of f inverse. F of f inverse. We'll talk about inverse tomorrow. Today we're gonna talk about all those in a very, very short period of time. So I can ask you this, right? Or I can ask you this, or I can ask you this, or I can ask you this. So that's all different way I can ask you. So what will be f plus g of x here?
1/2 of x, plus 1.
Okay.
No, wait, forget it. It's a different one.
Yeah, so the first one is what?
7 over 2
7/2x
plus 1.
minus, plus 1, yeah. Okay. So they just take this function, right? We're gonna say, and here is f plus g of x is equal to what? 2x minus 1 plus 3 over 2x plus 2. But every time you substitute, get a parenthesis going, because that parenthesis is gonna help you in the long run. A lot of people ignore the parenthesis, but the parenthesis is important. So I here it's gonna give you 7 over 2x and plus what?
1.
Plus 1. Are we okay? So this is notation wise. And what happened here? F minus g of x. Can somebody else tell me? Let's go with David, it's too easy for you. Bryce, can you tell me what happened here?
2x minus 1, minus
Put a parenthesis, yes.
minus 3 over 2 through x plus 2.
Plus 2. And you know how many people miss this part on the test? That distribute that negative sign into the things. Every time I always give you a negative. And every time you screw up because you forgot to distribute a negative. There's at least 10 of you guys mess up the distributing a negative on so many questions on the last test. So that negative sign is need to distribute, so that's gonna be 2x minus 3 over 2x, it's gonna be 1/2 x. And the minus 1 minus 2 is gonna be what?
Minus 3.
Minus 3. So that's one of the things that you had to be able to do, right? What is f dot g of x? Well, this one's what? We learned this is distributed. Nothing with FOIL, because do not call this FOIL anymore, because this is not FOIL. This is actually distributed. So then 2x times this is gonna be what? 3x squared? Not 6x.
I'm finishing 6 over 2x.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is 3x squared plus 4x and a minus what? 3 over 2x and a minus 2. That's equal to 3x squared. I don't know what the math on that one. 5 over 2x and a minus 2. And that's it. Do you think this is too difficult? No, that's pretty easy, right? Very intuitive. Okay. So what is the f over g of x? That's equal to what?
2x minus 1 over 3 over 2x plus 2.
2x minus 1 over what?
3 over 2x plus
3 over 2x plus 2. But there was one thing you had to put.
If not equal to 0.
G of x cannot equal to 0, so it'll be 3 over 2x plus 2 cannot equal to 0 because denominator equal to 0 is going to cause undefined. Then we're going to solve for this. So it'll be 3 over 2x equal to negative 2. And multiply both sides by 2, so it's going to be 3x cannot equal to what? Negative 4, and the x cannot equal to negative 4 over 3. And this one, then you can say, well, 2x minus 1 over 3 over 2x plus 2 cannot equal to 4 over 3. Are we okay here?
So it can equal to 0 and it can equal to negative 4 over 3, both of them?
No, just can, you have to write down here, and x cannot equal to negative 4 over 3. So you have to put, says, this one has one condition, x cannot equal to 4 over 3, negative 4 over 3. Let me know if I'm going too fast. This is pretty easy. So what would it be if I were to ask you, says, f plus g of 2? What would it be? That means evaluation. So this is an expression, right? This is what you're gonna get an expression. But this is an evaluation. What happened if f plus g of 2? That means I can plug in 2 into original functions. Okay, I can plug in 2 in here. I can say, okay, well, I can say that's equal to f of 2 plus g of 2. Right? Now, if I plug in 2, what will happen? So it's going to be what? 3, right? And plus g of 2?
3 over 3 plus 2.
5. So that's equal to 8, right? Or you can say, well, hey, what if I were to plug in 2 in here? What will happen? You get the same thing. 2 divided by 2 is 7. 7 plus 1 is 8. So which one's easier? For me, it's the first one's easier.
Yeah.
Because what if you combine this wrong? Right? What if you combine this wrong? Then you make a mistake right here and you plug in 2 into a wrong thing. So for me, is I rather plug each individual one because that's isolated. That's, not much mistake I can really make. So can you tell me what is f minus g of 2 is? Negative 2, good. All right, f dot g
15.
of 2 is what?
15.
It's, if I plug in 2 there, it's going to be 3 times 5 is 15. And then if f over g is going to be what? 3 over 5. And that's it. But this is not the hard part. Now what gets more interesting is the composite. So this is operation, the function operations. And that should be very straightforward. Do I need to give you an example, or you think you got this? Yes.
I think one example will work.
Okay, one example will work. So we can say this one is, we can say f of x is equal to negative 2 of x minus square minus 1, and g of x equal to 3x minus 4. And can you figure out what is f plus g of x, and f minus g of x, and f times g of x, and f divided by g of x. And you can say what is f plus g of 1, and f minus g of 1, and f dot g of 1, and f over g of 1. Okay, so you can figure out all those and you can check out the answers. Meanwhile, I'm going to talk about composite functions. So we're going to talk about what is composite function. know this is very easy for a lot of you guys. I know this is very easy for a lot of you guys. We're just gonna bear with me because not everybody in the same level. Right now, out of 88 students I have for our pre-cal, I still have 44 gets D's and F. 44 people have D's and F. So I have to cover this first because they need to go through, they need to understand all this stuff first before I go through. Because in the Algebra 2 teacher didn't teach you, Algebra 1 teacher didn't teach you, I need to teach all this part first. So just bear with me. I know some of you guys says this is too easy. I agree with you. I'm gonna erase this part, okay? And you can check the answer next door, see what I get, because I probably don't. If you only go over certain kind, then. So, the next thing we're gonna cover is composite. Composite is going to be look two different one is like this. It's called Fog functions. Fog is f of g of x. This is how I read them. Every time I see a O, that's f. Every time I see a parenthesis, is f. So that is going to be f of g of x. This is how I read it. Read as f of g of x. That's how I read it. But this is notation, guys. Now, some people call it fog, and the other one's golf. Okay, the second one is g of. So don't get confused with multiplication. This is an open circle. Okay? G, you can do G of G here. G of f of x is equal to G of f of x. Krishna, do you need me to go over anything? Huh? Division just negative 2x squared minus 1 over 3x minus 4. And x cannot equal to 4 over 3.
Oh.
That's it. And then f plus g just this. But you have to distribute a negative sign though. If you have a negative sign, you have to distribute. So every time you plug in, you have to put a parenthesis around it so you can distribute all the signs in there. Is there anyone you go over? I assume that you guys got this. Very creepy. He's looking at me. Okay, so this is composite functions. Composite function is very interesting because they can compose one function into another function. So for example, and that's where people start making mistake. So again, when I read it like this, it's going to be f. When you see a circle, it's always f. So f of g, and when you see a parenthesis, it's also f. So f of g of x. That's how I read it. Or f of g of x. They can also f of g of 2. Okay? So what does that mean? That means the function is inserted into another function. Now this is where people get confused now. So if I say f of x, we're going to use this one. So negative 2x squared minus 1, and g of x is equal to what? 3x minus 4.
Plug in 3x minus 4 to x squared.
Okay, so here, just be patient. So what if I say I want to find out what's f of g of x? So a lot of you guys don't know how to do this. So we're going to start from the very beginning. this, I'll rewrite as this, right?
Yeah.
And also, I'm gonna insert a g of x inside. What is g of x?
2x minus
So we're gonna say, since g, we're gonna start always from inside parentheses first. So that's gonna be f, and g of x is gonna be 3x minus 4.
Would you put parentheses over that?
That's it. Because we just replaced that g of x as 3x minus 4. Okay here? Going too fast? Now I'm gonna plug in the add 3x minus 4 into the function here. So we're gonna say everywhere you have x, you're gonna insert 3x minus 4. So that's equal to -2. So instead of write down x here, I'm gonna write down. So this one's -2, right? Something squared. But we don't know what is square, but every time we have x, we're gonna replace them. And not only that, you're gonna put a parenthesis around them so you don't make a mistake. So it'll be 3x minus 4. Going too fast? No? That's equal to what? -2. Don't kill a puppy, you know, right? So that's gonna be what? 3x minus 4 times 3x minus 4. So I can write that on the side. It's equal to 3x minus 4 times 3x minus 4. That's equal to perfect square trinomial, so it'll be minus 24x plus 16, right? So minus 2 times 9x squared minus 24x plus 16. And the minus 1. So now this -2 is going to distribute, so it'll be -18x squared plus 48x, and a what? Minus 32, minus 1, so it'll be minus 33. So that's my new functions. So if I were to ask you, says, hey, can you tell me what is f of g of 1 is? Now that's why people get confused. At here, you start with the innermost. So you start with this part, g of 1. You can do g of 1 on the side. So for me, that I figure out what g of 1 is. If I plug in g of 1, it's going to be what?
-1.
So if I say g of 1 is equal to 3 times 1 minus 4, that's equal to -1. So instead of a -1 here, I'm going to replace that. I'm going to say g of 1 is -1. And that's all we're going to do is plug in f of -1. So now we're going to plug in the -1 into here, into the f functions. So it'll be -2 times -1 squared minus 1. So that's equal to
-2 minus 1.
Okay, so you guys got this, right? So now we're gonna ask you, hey, can you find out what is g of f first? So this is my question. My question says this, and also this. So you're gonna do that. What is g of f? And you're gonna check each other, see what they did right. And meanwhile, I'm gonna go work in the back. So if you got an answer on that one, and check with each other, see what they get. after you are finished, you can draw those two graphs on your grid.
Wait, you said do what with that?
Just draw it out. We're gonna go over the question about that. Yes.
So does it really matter if you put X, parentheses, G, X, parentheses, or do we have to put the font?
So you have to do, make sure you have to rewrite it, right?
Like that, or?
So you're gonna rewrite it this way.
Yeah, negative
We
2
have to write it that way, so it doesn't really matter.
It does matter because now G is outside instead of F is F is outside. So now this one I will replace that, right? So if I would have G of F of X here, I will rewrite into this form that's easier to tell because I can tell what's inside and what's outside. Okay? So then I will say that's G of F of X. That's the first thing I will do. And now replace that F of X, right?
Yeah.
I'll replace that F of X. I'm gonna replace that F of X with what? What is the F of X? It's gonna be G of what?
negative 2.
-2x squared minus 4, right?
No, it's minus 1.
Oh, minus 1, thank you. Did you do this? And you're gonna plug in the G function. The G function is gonna be 3. So instead of place the x, we're gonna place whatever inside the parentheses, right? So whatever inside the parentheses is what? Is what? -2x squared minus 1, and then minus 4, right? So this is what the x is. But we replace that x with f of x. Now we're going to distribute that. So that's equal to what? -6x squared. Take away 3 and take away 4, so it's -7. How about this?
Plug in -1 for G.
No. Write it out first. G, don't be lazy. G of f of -1. Now we're gonna figure out what's f of -1 in here first. Well, f of -1 in here is gonna be what? 1, -2, -3. So it's gonna be equal to G of -3. And G of -3 is gonna place it here, so it'll be 3 times -3 minus 4, that's equal to -13. Now we're gonna go to the back functions. So can somebody adjust this?
Don't forget to like and subscribe. You know how we do out here.
So I have two functions here, and now graphing. Okay, you move. So then there's two graphing here. There's one is, thank you. Can somebody help?
Yeah, you know, I can definitely do this by myself. Doing the video.
So now this is the f of x, the black line, and the green line is going to be g of x. We're going to say this is g of x. Okay, so now this one's a little bit more interesting. You can say, well, let's start with something easy. Let's start with, what is f plus g of, let's do minus, I don't like plus. That's f minus g of 2. What do you think f minus g of 2 here? Call somebody, Kat.
Wait, what was the question?
I want to find out what's f minus g of 2 here.
Are we still using the same video over there?
We're going to use the set function from here now. This is the f of x and this is g of x. What's the f minus g of 2? cat?
And so g would be 1.
Okay. So what would be the answer? What do you think the answer is? 1. Good. So you can say f of 2. That means when x equal to 2, what is the function? So 2 is right here. So we're gonna go to f function, not a g function. So f of 2 minus g of 2. Right? So that's equal to what? 2 take away 1, that's equal to 1. Got it? Okay, let me ask you. What is f of g of f of g of -2? So you guys gonna figure out what's the f of g of -2 here. Come on, get to work. I'll call you guys. I'm gonna call better looking Zachary. I don't know who's better looking. Who's the smarter Zachary? Between, if it makes you guys, then it would be like perfect. One's got brain and one's got. What's f of g of -2? Everybody have a different answer, right? Good. What do you think is? This one I write out first. F of g of -2. That's my first step. What is g of -2? That means when x equal to -2, what is the g function? So that's gonna go to g functions here, right? And I'm gonna go to -2, so it's gonna be what? -3. So that's equal to f of -3. Now we're gonna say, what is f of -3? That means when it's -3 here, and what is the f functions? 3. So you have to understand graphic, table. Table is gonna work in the same way. That's graphic, but graphic is a better way to ask. So let me ask you, let me see if everybody can get this one correctly. F, I say g of f of -2. What is g of f of -2? I don't know. Don't shout it. I don't know if you have the right answer, but don't shout it. I want you guys to think before you shout it. This is the easy part of the test, but a lot of people screw up. G of f of -2. So what would it be? G of f of -2. Did you write this out first? Now here's why I don't like you. Always pack things up before the class ends. So f of -2, that means we're gonna go to -2 here. -2 is the x, right? And then go to f function, so that's gonna give me what y value? 2. So that's equal to g of 2. What is g of 2? Then let's go to 2 here. What is g? 1. Okay? Now can I ask you what is this? A thought. Phi of -1. So can I ask you that? What is phi? What's a phi? is the f of? It's 1, right? So that's gonna be f of 1, right? So I can say 1 here. What is the f function of 1?
Negative 1.
It's -1, not 1.
Oh, -1, sorry. So -1 here. So -1 is gonna be f of 1, right? F of 1 is what? 1. Can I ask Gog?
Oh, that's
I can ask you Gog. GOG of -1. So what is G of -1? Yes.
Any answer?
Yeah, sure.
1.
Okay, so let's look at it. G of -1 is gonna be here, right? So that's equal to what?
-2. Oh, -2 on.
No, hold on. G of -1, right? So that's equal to G of -2, right?
Yeah.
So what G of -2?
Ah,
Yeah, I put positive 2. I forgot that that's negative.
Okay, let me give you a tough one.
you called yourself.
F of G of F of -1. Forgot.
Alright, so.
You already got it? Good. You already got it? Good. Got it? Okay, good. Fuck off. Fuck off.
I wanna be smart the whole week.
Fuck off.
You wanna be smart in the whole week? Just go up to somebody and be like, forgot. And they'll be like, what?
That's my t-shirt. It's gonna be like F of G of F.
Don't make that a thing. Forgot.
That's my t-shirt. If I were to write a t-shirt.
Instant.
Nobody will get it, right?
I'll buy it. Straight.
I'll get it.
The teacher will be so
I'm gonna
confused, be
go
like,
like
what?
that shirt.
And I'll be like, forgot.
Okay, so you should be able to, what is f of -1? F of a -1 is what? 1. So that's gonna be f of G of what? 1, right? Now what is G of 1? G of 1 is right here. G of 1 is? 0. So it'll be f of a 0. And what is f of a 0? 0. Good.
Oh.
Okay? That's not that hard, right?
No, it's easy.
Yeah, but a lot of people get confused. But this is one of the common tested question on SAT, but a lot of people don't know how to read them. They give you a graph and they say, what's fuck off? And you're like, don't know. Yes.
Can you give us a
Forgot.
Wait, that's on internet.
Can you
Sounds
give us a
fun. It sounds
Pagofka question?
What?
Pagofka question?
Forgot.
Okay, so everybody got this.
We need to change it to like uncensored.
Yeah, censor. This is PG-13. You need a parent.
Permission.
Rated R. Rated R.
You can't watch this study anymore.
Oh.
Again, I ain't gonna repeat this one more time, you bum. Subscribe to the damn channel. Drop a like if you like.
As
Deuces.
soon as I talk to the same 5 people, you know who you are.